Hello, my name is Allison Bochart. Today we'll be discussing a variety of ways we can leverage English learner assets, building home and school connections. We'll talk through an asset-based perspective, which will understand and values diversity among learners and how we as educators can apply culturally responsive teaching practices, supporting the needs of all students within the classroom, making connections and forming partnerships with families. This approach supports EL students by creating an academic environment which supports all aspects of who they are and where they can grow. Culturally responsive teaching holds students to high expectations, values the assets a student brings to the classroom, draws on their family culture and diversity, and creates an academic environment which cultivates caring, respect, and acceptance. Cultural influences impacts teaching and student learning in multiple ways. Cultural refers to the broad ideals, beliefs, and values which influence an individual or group's attitudes, perceptions, and actions. Different cultures shape how students and families interact and view situations. This includes things like communication styles, for example, eye contact, personal space, etc. The way students engage in their learning. They may want to work in teams or find working in teams uncomfortable and want to work in isolation. How they view authority or gender may be significantly different. And one of the most important pieces of cultural influences to consider is if the students' and families' culture relates stigmas associated to differences. These areas can impact the comfort level of a student within the classroom, which may influence their ability to access and engage in the learning. Academic achievement is influenced by the academic content, classroom structure, and practices implemented by the educator. Thus, teachers, we must acquire cultural competencies to ensure their practices include culturally responsive teaching. Cultural competence requires educators to hold the intrinsic desire to genuinely learn about the student's culture, experiences, and create a classroom environment which celebrates the diversity among the learners, thus enabling all students to create positive beliefs, perceptions, and ideas about other cultures and differences. When an educator is culturally competent, thus providing a culturally responsive learning environment for all students, they are providing each learner with the ability to access their education with success, while valuing and preserving the student's cultural identity, allowing them to engage meaningfully with both the school and home environments. Cultural values and beliefs must be ingrained into the learning and classroom environment. To gain an understanding about a student's culture, research suggests educators should focus on building a strong relationship with families. By forming a partnership, educators will develop an awareness and appreciation for the cultural and linguistic differences. This insight and knowledge can lead educators to ensure how they present the content and interact with the student, respectful, honoring the student's culture and diversity. Inclusive classrooms includes different cultures, which strengthens a student's desire to be an active participant in their learning. It increases their communication skills, deepens cultural awareness, and creates a positive, welcoming learning environment. The school classroom environment plays a significant role in the student's ability to increase their language acquisition. To create a welcoming environment where students feel comfortable and accepted, educators can apply a variety of strategies. Some strategies include learning and correctly pronouncing the student's name. Offer a variety of supports like peer partners or frequent individual check-ins. Utilize visual supports in both languages on the visual. Seek an interpreter. Create activities where students get to share information about their culture and integrate the students' culture into academic content. Supporting and celebrating cultural diversity is essential. Educators can seek opportunities outside the scope of their required textbook curriculum and take advantage of the diversity found within the artwork, the music and dance, and special traditions or celebrations. Educators should highlight positive awareness and celebrate differing holidays of a student's culture. Educators should partner with parents and community members to facilitate opportunities for cultural activities, fostering environments of acceptance. For example, help your parents put together a multicultural fair where different cultures are highlighted and honored. Finding ways to celebrate different cultures builds a culturally responsive academic environment for all students. By leveraging home and language assets within an academic task, educators can create meaningful ways for EL students to engage in their learning. An educator can provide students with opportunities to share information about their culture, allowing them to incorporate diversity within an assignment. Educators should provide resources to students and families within their native language, thus supporting and accepting their diversity. As educators, we must demonstrate through our actions mutual respect for the variety of languages and cultures within our classroom. We can incorporate visuals with all the languages included, verbally and visually making connections between the content of the task and the student's language and culture. Presenting diverse literature which reflects the student's culture, thus fostering connection which promotes inclusion, may increase their intrinsic desire to read. As educators, we implement strategies daily to support students to be successful. We must employ strategies to enhance a student's strengths, supporting areas of need and respecting the unique individual identities of all students. This requires educators to implement culturally responsive practices, providing differentiated instruction through universal design for learning, practicing in collaboration with all stakeholders based on the student's strengths. When building off of student strength, educators are employing an asset-based approach. The implementation of UDL, differentiated instruction, emphasizes a learning environment which highlights their strengths and supports their differences. This type of environment may offer choices which are culturally and personally relevant, thus resulting in higher levels of student engagement in their learning. It's essential educators are aware of the methods to support EL students in addressing their social and emotional needs. EL students may require supports to ensure their mental well-being is healthy due to displacement, trauma, extended time in refugee camps, and barriers resulting in fear when resettling. Beyond the fears of poverty, discrimination, and other environmental factors, the lack of English proficiency impacts EL students' overall social and emotional well-being. Educators can apply a variety of strategies to meet the social emotional needs of their students. By helping students to recognize and understand the causes and consequences of emotions, they will begin to develop the foundational skills to regulate. Supporting a student to increase their self-worth requires them to be vulnerable. Thus, educators must have a strong rapport with their students. Creating a classroom culture which nurtures student success in a supportive manner is essential. You can accomplish supporting their social emotional health by implementing consistent, predictable routines, delivering explicit instruction of common strategies, providing specific spaces within the classroom where students can utilize when they're feeling dysregulated, and modeling and facilitating kindness, empathy, and appreciation for all students. Predictable routines and procedures reduce anxiety, especially for students who have experienced trauma or major life transitions. Students from different cultural backgrounds may interpret routines and procedures differently, thus requiring educators to provide explicit instruction of the routines while demonstrating respect for their diversity. Educators must also support the implementation of classroom routines and procedures with positive praise. However, we must be mindful. Some cultures may view praise presented in different manners as negative or find the action uncomfortable. Thus, educators must establish the strong connection with students, develop their social emotional learning skills while providing classroom environment with stability and structures, giving feedback in a manner which the student perceives as positive. Funds of knowledge can be defined as historically accumulated and culturally developed bodies of knowledge and skills essential for household or individual functioning and well-being. This concept places value on the specific strengths which characterize a family or group of people. A student's fund of knowledge may provide specific areas of strength for their learning. For example, they may have extensive background knowledge in agriculture. Thus, educators can incorporate curriculum aligned with the area of familiarity for the student. This may look like your math lesson on measurement, analyzing how different plants grow to different heights. Establishing a strong partnership with families is an important part of implementing culturally responsive teaching practices. To establish this type of relationship, educators must take the time to talk with the family, learning more about the culture. This type of action demonstrates an educator's respect for the different culture and language of the student and family. This may require interpreters to support clear, accurate communication. Hosting events which are welcoming for the families to establish a community of support is another means to help bridge a partnership. These events can support connections between families in the community with shared interests. Additionally, an important step will be to connect these families with local organizations to support their needs. Helping families have access to resources they need to be successful will support the overall opportunities and experience for students. Fostering strong relationships with families, between families, and with community agencies are ways educators can help build culturally inclusive environments for all students to be successful. Educators must accomplish 3 main areas for EL students to be successful within an inclusive classroom. It's essential for educators to integrate culturally responsive teaching practices with high expectations, respond to the social emotional development, and establish effective intervention, supports, and systems.